Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about just how many of these climate activists or other activists, but I'll focus on climate for just a moment, are actually in very well-paid jobs. Now, these are taxpayer-funded jobs. Now, whether that taxpayer money is funneled in through some sort of indirect, front organisation or paid directly to the activist. There's probably an even mix of both, I guess. But what we're looking at is a situation where the prominent, say, climate activists, the prominent ones, the ones that are sort of the primary organisers, they're often seen on television or being quoted in the media as somehow being sagacious authorities on the matter. They are invariably paid very well in certain jobs, which are no-show jobs. They never have to, turn up to do any work. It's just an excuse to funnel money into their pockets, so they're being paid to be full-time activists. So it's a 100% no-show job with travel expenses and a generous salary. So they can run around the countryside playing activist and without having to worry about where the money's coming from or how they're going to pay the bills or anything like that. So there are vast resources being put at their disposal. Now, the resources placed at the disposal of the globalist machine intent on destabilizing Western society has always been generous, whether it's the radical feminists or whoever it is. And we need to understand it in the context of this is a globalist project to destabilize Western society and to divide Western society. That's all it is. Now, they may use climate change or this or that, violence against women or racism, Nazis everywhere. They'll throw all that stuff around. But the reality is it's all a program to destabilize Western society. So now what I've done over the last sort of several months, whenever I see, say on the media, a climate change protester of some prominence who clearly is being treated and feted as some sort of huge authority on the matter, whenever I see one of those, I just was taking down, or if I notice it, I would just take down the name and just put it on a list. And so this morning Australian time, I decided to go through that list, pull out the names and start doing some legwork, if you like, on the internet, going online and just searching the names. Now, it doesn't take long. If you know what you're looking for and how to do it, you can cover this territory very quickly. So in 15 minutes or less, I'd gone through all the names that I had and was able to find not every single one of them, but 90% of them. I was able to establish who they were, where they were employed, and so on. And also then by looking at how often they were popping up at different locations around the country, and on the times that they were supposedly doing it as part of an alleged protest, then it was possible to just ascertain roughly how much time they were spending at their supposed jobs, and that was zero time from the looks of it. So here's one here, which is classic. She doesn't come from a poor family, but they're not filthy rich either. So she's not some like trust fund baby sitting back watching the bucks roll in out of the trust fund. So she's got the usual sort of arts, gender studies type degree, at a university that nobody fails in the course. So she's got all that type of stuff. So definitely the pedigree for an activist. But she's been given a job as president of an arts council now, or chairman or whatever it is of this arts council. So now it pays quite well in US dollars terms. If given the sort of job it is, it pays about 160,000 a year. But on top of that, you get unlimited travel expenses. Supposedly the job is to go around promoting the arts around the country. So she gets unlimited travel now, but it's a no-show job. So she doesn't have to do anything at all. She is a full-time climate protester activist paid. Now, this particular arts council is 100% funded by the government. Therefore, it's 100% taxpayer dollars. So the government is knowingly aiding and abetting, colluding with, conspiring with climate change activists to act against the people of this Western country. Now, you can pretty much go to any Western. I'll use sort of, I guess, Britain and Australia, New Zealand to a lesser extent as being the examples here, but or Canada, and even a few in the US. But in each instance, in every instance, I found the same pattern. Somebody who's been radicalized through the NGO system, and the university system, because the gender studies and those arts and all that sort of stuff, that's all shot through with NGO activists. It's a revolving door, a conga line of activists going in and out of academia into the media, into these NGOs, then into the climate change. For example, climate change activism, or it could be BLM or anything, but Antifa or whatever. So really, this is the important sort of takeaway here, that every single person is being paid. These activists, and I'm looking more at climate activism than anything, is paid by the taxpayer at these no-show jobs. There is just no way these people could travel all around the country and could take all that time to be full-time activists, to incur all those travel expenses, unless they were either super cashed up or somebody was paying the bills. There's just no way they can do it. Now, just looking, even if you look at someone who's given the locations of where this one person was doing the stuff the last 6 months, and you look at the amount of locations they went to and the time they were spending there, the cost of food and accommodation, the traveling, even if you look at sort of coach class train travel, which they couldn't do, they'd need a motor vehicle. So you're really looking at the cost of, I mean, you're talking, well over 20,000, or probably close to 35,000. I'll use US dollars as the benchmark here. 35,000 US dollars for all the traveling they're doing, and assuming a factor of accommodation. Let's suppose that they were using public service and then staying at friends' places, or only eating the cheapest sort of takeout food, or they were making sandwiches or something like that, which they're clearly not, by the way. They're looking very well rested, well fed, and well dressed. They're not wearing clothes from the $2 store around the corner or something like that. It's designer label clothes, responsibly sourced hemp and so on. So these people are dressed expensively. They've got if you look at their general health and so on, these aren't people that are living on scraps out of the garbage can or anything. They're well fed, they're well rested. There's no red rings around the eyes and so on. These are people who are living a very comfortable existence, if you don't mind, and they're staying in nice hotels. They've got time to go to hairdressers and this sort of stuff. But I wanted to make the point here in this relatively short video that these people all being paid, whether they're directly on the public purse, like they're working at a university or a local council or something like, but they're given this time off. I was also looking at just a few other names where they're not as prominent, but effectively the local councils, which again, your tax dollars, local government, public service departments, education departments, and so on, they are all providing standby protesters. So all as soon as the word goes out, the public servants from whatever public service department it could be, that they will be given time off with pay, as they will from education departments, universities, high schools. They will be given time off without any penalty to their studies or their courses. In many universities, they offer special credit marks to grades to go towards their final grade, which no one ever fails anyway. But they get special allowances and dispensations and extra grades. We'll guarantee you a credit distinction. All this sort of stuff. If you go and protest, so they can deliver these standby crowds out of government departments and councils and all sorts of groups that are taxpayer funded. So they can deliver several hundred protesters with placards at the drop of a hat. So we need to just understand how far within now. Let's look at a real world where you have to have a permit to do the activism. Well, then they couldn't do the activism because they're not applying for permits. The ambush, come out of the blue tactics they use means they can't have a permit. And it's interesting how leniently the police and the courts treat them for that. I think if you're a group protesting against COVID shots or against mass migration, the police and the courts will be much less lenient. I think they'd be quite brutal in comparison. Or if you're praying within 200 metres of an abortion clinic, then the police will be far keener to arrest you than they do these people. But just looking at the structure of the justice around this, they can deliver these large crowds. But if the public service department said, well, you go out and protest, then you're going to lose a day's pay, or you'll be docked for the time away you are, plus you'll receive a reprimand and so on, then it would be very different. These people wouldn't be out doing the protesting. If these no-show jobs didn't exist, where they're deliberately getting a protester activist and saying, we'll pay you, we'll give you a good salary plus your travel expenses, and we'll pretend that we'll give you a pretend job. But which is just an excuse for us to put money in your pocket. If this infrastructure, which is huge, vast, and wide, didn't exist, then we wouldn't see these climate protests. So it's being facilitated, enabled, underwritten, and in a very conspiratorial way, I believe. Why isn't the government coming out and saying, hey, look, guess what? We're using your taxpayer dollars, white taxpayer, to actually fund the climate change protest that makes your life miserable. We're actually paying for it, and we're giving these people time off at your expense. What do you reckon of that? If they did that, I'm not sure it'd be very well received. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.